The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster by, good afternoon. Friday lunchtime, live from the Isle of Man. We're open line today through till 1, so the floor is yours. Lines are open on 66 13 68. Text 166 177. SMS 166 177. WhatsApp 166 177. Email studio@manxradio.com. Did you hear that story in the news about a parcel took 5 days to get from Onken to Peel? Onken to Peel. That caused, didn't we, a few weeks ago, people saying that their businesses were really hampered, and what used to be sometimes a 2-day turnaround, got an order in on one day and it used to get sent out the next and will be with somebody across the UK. But it seems like that's not an option anymore. Now, whether or not it's because of the problems that we have with the boat and the siltation at Heysham. But really, are we expecting a first-class service from the post office nowadays, now the mail plane has gone? And whose idea was that, by the way? Was that the Royal Mail who pulled the plug, or was it Isle of Man Post Office who pulled the plug? We never really heard, did we? Text, email, call and WhatsApp if you've got anything to say about that. Or yesterday when Joan Watterson and Michelle Hayward were on. Didn't get to all our calls yesterday and lots of messages, and I'll come to some of those later. But Will's first on today. Hi, Wilf.
Hi, this is just my personal opinion. I listened to the Mannin Line yesterday. I listened to the experts telling us all about all these different things. But I personally would not like to see any windmills on the Isle of Man, anywhere on the Isle of Man, because the cost of these things, altering roads and things and all the rest of it to get to it, the government could never get the price right in anything they suggest, and it'll be astronomical price. The thing is, leave it to the people who do it out in the sea. Leave it to them. When we're talking about renting seabed to these people, well, when you rent a seabed to somebody, or to the likes of those people, that seabed then actually belongs to them in a way, because they're never going to take this thing down, or they're never going to get rid of the concrete and things that they put on the ground. So you might as well give it to them for nothing. Forget the renting of it. Just give it to them and let them sort it out and sell us either some cheap electric or, better still, sort out how many windmills they need, and then give them all the seabed they want, and we'll have free electric. But don't destroy the countryside with dragging these big windmills and bits and pieces.
Well, there is something to be said. You see, Wilf, if they do put a wind turbine up, whether it's in the north or the south, if it all does go wrong, I'm not saying it will or would or could, but if that does happen, they can actually take all the concrete away. They can let the ground can reclaim itself.
Put back again, yes. It can all be put back as it was. When you do that to the seabed, well, put it this way. If these things were installed on the seabed, you've got this big lump of concrete. That then seabed is dead, because the scallopers, etc., if it's anywhere near where they go, they couldn't drag over that lot. It's just ridiculous. But when it's done, it actually belongs to them. We'll never get the seabed back again. So forget renting it. Give it to them for nothing. But give us some free electric or cheap electric. But let's not go and stick these or attempt to put these things over the hills and what have you, because, as I say, the government has never got the price right with anything they do. So they'll not get it right with this. It'll cost millions and millions over top of the price that they quote.
All right. Okay.
Plus all this disruption and all the rest of it.
All right. Thanks, Wolf. Have a good weekend.
Right.
All right. Good to hear from you. And Betty's with us now on Mannin. Hi, Betty.
Hi, Andy. I hope you're keeping well.
Oh, terrific. Thanks. Yeah, yourself?
Not so bad. Not so bad. But I want to thank Lucy from the Deaf Society. She's always there when you need help. And I also want to thank James at the hospital for adjusting my hearing aids so I can now actually hear people. And he's a lovely young man, and I'm very grateful, and I want to say thank you. But there's also something else I'd like to say. I want to urge people, if possible, from Ramsey and the north, and maybe further afield, to come and view what's going on at ACE, which is next to Age Concern. Now, Stephanie and her helpers have done an amazing job of setting it up for Christmas. And there are all sorts of things in there, and they're lovely. And knitters and felters have made amazing things. And there are lots of things to buy, small things that people could buy for Christmas. But it's just worth going in just to look at it. It's lovely.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks for that. It's Lucy Buxton, isn't it, at the Manx Deaf Society?
Yes, and James, and he's lovely too.
All right,
and
thanks.
Very helpful.
All right.
It was very helpful.
Good to hear from you. Thanks, Betty.
Okay, bye.
All right, David's with us now. Hi, David.
I may just to correct there, windmills make flour. Wind turbines create energy.
Right.
Just on that. And just, if I could ask too, and I don't know whether your newsroom would try and pick it up, I've tried to find out who authorised the work at Laxey, because I want to thank them. And this initiative they've actually done is going to prove something to the population and the government that things can be done if people make a leap of faith down there moving the stones.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why, if it's a government department, why you can't find out who authorised it. Was it DEFA? Was it DOI? Was it somebody else? Where was the contract? How much is going to cost? Because
and also, what's their objective? What do they hope will happen or intend will happen?
Well, I hope it's the initiative is that they won't have to build a giant seawall in Laxey, and then when you're sitting there having your cup of tea at the cafe there, you'll see a blank wall like we will in Douglas. And common sense has to come in when people can do this all over the world. Take the material away, recycle it. It's good stuff. It's not contaminated, like I've said to you before. As far as I know, in Douglas, the beach down there is not contaminated. The only thing that's contaminated down there in the summer months when the seaweed comes up and just lies itself there and then cooks and becomes a bit rancid. So if you do that in good weather now, you get those breaks, take that material, put it inland, recycle it. There's loads of recyclers. Say the government have got their own quarry. The one at Purtown and Peel, I'm sure, or the one up near Foxdale there. They could store it. Why aren't we using it? That's the question.
So it'd be nice to know then who authorised it. They can come forward and take a bow.
Yes, and and we don't always whinge, but there are people who will take a leap of faith. Somebody's done this, took that leap of faith, and actually done something about it, and is probably going to save the government a lot of money and the taxpayers. That's us. Okay,
all right. Thanks, David.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Now. All right, 16 minutes past 12. Jed's on now. Hi, Jed.
Hi, I'd like to comment about Ewan Watterson's appearance on the show yesterday, if that's okay. Yeah, as we know, Ewan is a very effective politician. He's been in office since, I think it's around 2006, one of the longest-serving MHKs. In fact, he had the biggest vote on the island. I think he scores, 2,000 to 3,000 votes, which is quite significant. And he's an accountant as well, very astute, I know that. Now, yesterday, he was talking about the Isle of Man has been running at a loss for over a decade. And he mentioned that last year there were £150 million in deficit. And what he alluded to was the lack of financial information available. I think he referred to it as the little blue book, or the pale blue book. And he's not been able to access that, say, for 2 years. He said the last time it's published in 2021. So when you add all this up together, you've got to start to think, who is actually running the Isle of Man?
He did say he's very frustrated by all this.
But he's an elected representative with a huge majority. He's been in for a long time. And the last few weeks, he's been quite informative, really, with his rhetoric. And he's almost taken what I would say is an anti-government stance, in that he's revealing the truth. And I think if the listeners can just reflect on this, that, this is going on under his nose, and he's a qualified accountant. And if he can't access the salient information for his decision-making, for the decision-making of the people around him, I think we've got a serious problem on our hands.
When the last election was being held a couple of years ago, one word kept coming up all the time, Jed, and it was transparency. Everybody wanted transparency for government. People wanted to know what was happening. And the fact that, our financial position is not rosy. I mean, we're not in deep trouble, but it is not rosy, and we're not contributing to reserves anymore. We've been drawing on reserves. So I suppose government will say, well, look, we say this all the time. Certainly when Dr. Allinson was on Mannin Line a while back, he said it. He said we're drawing on reserves, and we'll continue to until the economy can be balanced. So the information is there. What particular information do you think that we actually need to know, Jed?
I'd like someone like Ewan to appear on, say, a YouTube video and just give a financial projection. He's probably the most qualified person in the House to do that, and to give some reassurance to the people living on the island. Because at the moment, we're anticipating that we want 15,000 extra residents here. And I don't know if you listened to the committee where one of the representatives from the Department of Infrastructure was unable to give any sense of any plan about how the waste management for these extra 15,000 people is going to be accommodated. And it's little snippets that when you listen here and there, you start to scratch your head and think, my God, what is actually going on? This is a bit of a circus. So the likes of, say, Ewan, maybe you could ask him to come back and let's have some facts and figures, because there's a lot of conjecture about, and that creates uncertainty. And that doesn't inspire confidence. If you're interested in doing business or moving to the Isle of Man, I think it's absolutely a priority to achieve this.
I mean, do you think that the current crop of Keys and Ledgco politicians are capable of handling this? I only say that because we've had non-stop growth. I mean, the Isle of Man kind of hit rock bottom in 1984. The government system changed. Mr. Miles Walker's administration came in, and we had politicians with backs to the wall. We knew we were in trouble then, but then came the years of plenty. And do you think that the current day politicians realise that times aren't what they used to be?
I think sometimes, I'll have a conversation with a politician and some are in touch and some are out of touch. But what I can say, we've got an island that has full employment. We have got increase in certain sectors of the economy, and we look at e-gaming and we look at the construction, say, that's on Victoria Road, and it's anticipated that we're going to have 200 jobs and so forth. But on the flip side, we've got an island that's got a huge shortage of housing for young people, and that could be regulated by controlling the rental market a little more strictly and how we build houses and so forth, but we've talked that one to death. But what I'm saying is that there doesn't seem to be anyone standing up and actually going, hang on a minute here, we need to get serious income coming in by numerous streams. So even, on my level, the tourism side of things, you just have your head in your hands at some times and think, gosh, we could be capitalising on the winter market, but we choose not to. We're chasing certain sectors that maybe aren't as successful as others for generating revenue and so forth. And things just seem a little bit disconnected, but I'd advise anyone to listen to Ewan on the Listen Again facility on your website, really, about, his portrayal of the Isle of Man finances, for sure.
And also, he and Michelle Haywood talked quite forthright terms about the state, just something basic like Port St Mary High Street, and the fact that and the fact that they, as he said, they had a very robust exchange of views, and still it hasn't been done.
You've hit the nail on the head, and I'm glad you've opened this one up, because this is a stretch of road that's about 150 yards long. And it's been knackered, it's been broken for years and years. And we've got the local commissioners and the local MHKs who will have been badgering the relevant departments, and still nothing happens. And you've got the most obvious piece of road in the south that needs attention. And yet you can look up Aracy and, oh, look, we're relaying a new surface up there. And you think, well, where do the priorities lie? I understand that it's a big project, but when your local MHKs, who are fighting for your businesses and fighting for your residents, are unable to facilitate such a simple measure, 150 yards of road, it just shows, you've got to scratch your head and ask yourself, who's running this place?
Okay. All right. Thanks, Chad. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good to hear from you. And Ken's on now. Hi, Ken.
Afternoon to you. The proposed increase in the sewage charge, which nobody wanted in the first place, I just wonder if it'd not be fairer if put the price up more for the unit of electricity, so people living on their own don't pay the same as perhaps me, who've got a family. I've got 5 in my house. It's just unfair tax that you live on your own and you pay the same as bigger households. I was just wondering if that's been considered so they can get their extra £800,000.
And do you think that's so? You don't think anything like a toilet tax would work then?
Well, the toilet tax is already in, isn't it? That's the sewage thing.
So do you think that should? Do you think that should be based? Let me say, a toilet tax per inhabitant? Is there any way of that? Do you think that's the better way to do it rather than lumping it onto electricity?
Be like water meters, but it's very difficult to introduce, and it wouldn't be cost effective to do that, basically. But to be fair, they should put the price up more I know it's going up by inflation, but should put that up slightly to get the rate extra 100,000.
Good thought.
But, it's not all bad news, because just to let people know, we're getting our £40 Christmas bonus, old age pensioners.
Right.
Which they haven't really advertised.
Well, you have now, Ken. Thanks for telling everybody.
Okay, cheers.
Right.
Bye.
Good to hear from you. Big John in Laxey says, there's one thing everybody's forgetting about wind farms on the Isle of Man. As fast-faced as it sounds, if we lose all electricity through a war attack by Russia, crikey, the UK grid will be hit first, and the wind farms will be our only lifeline to cook a hot meal on. This realistically could happen. A message in from, let's have a look here. This is James, who says, adding to Jed's comments, Peter Caron said, don't spend all the VAT and duty money coming in for years. Put it aside for a rainy day. It never happened, and now it's raining, says James. And Bonzo's on. Hi, Bonzo.
Hello, yes. Expanding on those comments of Ged's and also the one you were just reading out. When Ged says, okay, yes, who's running the Isle of Man? I'm reminded of that scene in Apocalypse Now where the central character is going ashore at a bridge that they're shelling at night, and he goes along the trenches and he's asking people who's in command, and he goes up to one chap and goes, who's in command here? And the chap goes, ain't you? And the captain then returns to his boat and says, "Did you find who was in command?" "There's no one in command here." And yes, I fear that the Isle of Man government may be somewhat like that. But we will hear, I think, in terms of finance, very much about this in the coming Tynwald, 12th, 14th of December, because Tynwald is receiving the Public Accounts Committee's annual report, and they are not pleased at all. They are asking in that, amongst other things, for unaudited accounts, which I think was the thing that Johnson was talking about yesterday, that they haven't received for 2 or 3 years. And it's all very well having the audited accounts, but the audited accounts produce a picture. It's not the raw material from which the picture is produced. And although audited accounts are the audit religion's mantra, true and fair representation, true and fair representation, yes, can be a matter of interpretation. So that's why you want the unaudited accounts. But certainly it's well known that the structural deficit, of course, is 150 million and rising. And there are some very large bonds which are going to need to be repaid in the next few years. I'm not quite sure whether there's one due within this particular Keys or whether it's just after the election in 26 or 27. I think there's definitely one in sort of 2030, 2031. And so those have to be prepared for now. And, well, I await to see what this taxation strategy will be that I think Dr. Anderson is announcing. Again.
Have you got any, could you hypothesize on that? Any ideas what you think might happen?
There will have to be a fundamental rise in taxes, and there will have to be a rise in taxes that actually approaches the idea that those who have the biggest shoulders need to bear the biggest burden, unlike the current system, which is entirely the reverse. And that's one of the things that we haven't really addressed over the past 20, 30 years. This, as and others term it, the welfare state, where government's expenditure and emphasis has been on wealthy people, and giving them more money, supposedly, which would then come back into the economy. But that kind of trickle-down economics, as we've seen everywhere else in the world, simply is ludicrous and doesn't work.
So, I mean, in your opinion, what's the prognosis for the Isle of Man? Where does the future lie? Increased taxation?
Well, in the interim, increased taxation. But hopefully increased taxation for those who can afford to be taxed. Because one of the things is that we do have in the economy the potential for more tax revenue. It's just that we haven't taken it, because we've been giving it to wealthy people to go around buying £250,000 Bentley SUVs to churn the roads up in.
OK, all right. I appreciate that, Bonzo. Thanks for calling today.
OK, then. Cheers.
It's 12:30.
At Isle of Man Energy, we're excited to offer our customers the Alpha E-Tech Efficient Hybrid Gas Boiler and Heat Pump combination. This state-of-the-art hybrid boiler causes minimal disruption to your existing heating system, making it simple to upgrade. Priced from just £65 a month and with 6-year warranty as standard, which can be extended to 10 years, what are you waiting for? Register for a free consultation at isleofmanenergy.im.
The holidays remind us of family, love, and the importance of planning for the future.
This festive season, we found peace of mind, all thanks to Man Benham.
Book an end-of-year consultation. Let's secure tomorrow, today.
You'll find a real home away from home behind the big wall on Grovemount South in Ramsey. Grovemount Residential Home promotes independent living, where residents can come and go as they wish in our homely environment. Our professional service includes respite, long-term residential living and other care options. Call in for a cup of tea and a chat. We're opposite the Ramsey Group practice, or call 812 173. Isle of Man registered charity number 108. Grovemount Residential Home. Professionalism, dignity, care. care.
The Ginger Hall has it all. Check out the new menu at the Ginger Hall Hotel with classic dishes like homemade lasagna, pie of the day, chili and sharing platters, to chicken fajita wraps, chicken burgers, dirty fries, and Sunday specials like roast brisket baps with trimmings. Visit our Facebook page for all our opening times, pictures, full menus, plus information on our live music and loads more information. The Ginger Hall really does have it all.
Nicola Bowker & Co. want to say thank you to all our clients and our team for another great year. And we can't wait to help all our clients, old and new, in 2024. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from Nicola Bowker & Co. Chartered Accountants.
Coming soon, you could be a big winner with Manx Radio's 12 Days of Christmas. We've got some massive prizes up for grabs,
including return Logan Air flights to London City, £100 to spend at King's Spa, and a luxury hamper from Woodburn Deli.
So keep listening for your chance to win this festive season.
Manx Radio's 12 Days of Christmas. Brought to you by SpectrumWindows.im. The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
James dropped a note in just to say the postal plane, the mail plane, was paid for by Royal Mail UK, not Isle of Man Post Office. The same thing happened to the post plane to Jersey as well. That's been cut. It's also my understanding Isle of Man Post Office, have they lost the parcel force contract? Well, I did hear the other day of a courier delivering parcel force stuff on a Sunday on the Isle of Man, so maybe that's it. The issues over that 150 yards road in Port St Mary is a prime example of over-governance on the Isle of Man. Too many politicians and civil servants spoiling the pot. Reform and reduce the scale and scope of local government, and over time transfer the workforce to the private sector to stimulate the economy and increase fiscal revenue, says Dave in Onken. Thank you, Dave. Still doesn't get the road fixed, though, does it? We appreciate it in existential terms, but in the meantime, the road just gets worse in Port St Mary. It's only 150 yards, but it's really important, 150 yards. And Juan's with us now. Hi, Juan.
How are you today, Andy?
Very well, thank you. It's a lovely day. It's nice to be looking inside out today. It's a bit nippy.
It's a bit chilly there, I believe, yeah. I just wanted to drop back onto yesterday. I didn't get a slot on yesterday. It was kind of a busy show, but right at the end, I was interested in David North's comments right at the end, and I was a little bit broken up there because he's from over the pond at the moment, but I was interested in his comments of where wind farms were looked at previously. But I just wanted to drop back on and the question I wanted to actually ask Michelle Haywood. I'm just taking some data from Our World in Data, and this is to do with the wind turbines. I'm looking at the countries that have enacted wind turbines and are actively using them. Over 3,000 kilowatt hours. Denmark is very, very high there. And then you're coming down to 1,700 kilowatt hours, Germany, Spain, Netherlands, United Kingdom, and then going right the way down to the bottom of the list with Belgium and Hungary. And then I look at the prices per kilowatt hour. And this is where the correlation comes in. Denmark, 46 cents per kilowatt hour. Spain, 32 cents per kilowatt hour. Germany, 44 cents per kilowatt hour. All the same people, all the same countries that are using wind as an energy source. The ones that are not, right down the scale, is Mexico at 0.09 cents. Taiwan, 0.99 cents. Hungary, 0.09 cents. So there seems to be a trend there where the people that are using their wind energy are at the highest part of the scale. Now, I'm just a point that Michelle Haywood made some time ago on this programme about electricity being, wind turbine electricity being cheap. And I'd just like Michelle to actually say where that is, because I'm struggling to find it out of the data that I'm looking at. Can she actually name this place that she says where wind turbines is actually effective and cheaper for the population? Now, going on to the meeting at Port St Mary the other night, Andy, the meeting?
It was at Russian primary school, Port St Mary.
Russian primary school, yeah. And if anyone's interested in that, I think, is it Frank Schnugel, I think you pronounce his name, has done a video of the whole proceedings, which I think is on YouTube. And it's very interesting if anyone is interested in the feedback. And there's obviously a big issue here, and Tim Krukal was on the top table, as was the Chief Minister. But it's very clear that there's a lot of people concerned over the future of where this is heading. And again, I wanted to ask the question. Now, it brought up very, very briefly about geothermal, very briefly, and it was washed over pretty quickly. And they had someone there who claimed to be a geologist of some kind, whether he's actually studied in geology or just got a degree in it, who blew-hooed it away. Now, I think you've spoken to Graham Fox-Hume yourself, haven't you, Andy? Well, what do you determine Graham as an educated person in his field?
Oh, well, I think Graham has had decades and decades of practical experience in drilling. So when it comes to drilling and planning drillings, he and his cohort, Fred, they know how to drill and they know about geology.
Yeah. And this is the point I'm making. You get someone who's gone up there, who's obviously getting paid to do what he's doing and boo-hooing this away. And you've got Graham, who stood at the back of the hall and made the statement about geothermal and actually cross-questioned them and said that, factually, you're not correct in what you're saying. And it was kind of moved on to another subject. So it would be nice to try and put this to bed, because I still can't understand why they're going down this wind turbine route when it's failing in other countries. America, it's not cracked out to what it's going to be, and that's starting to show now. And like I've said before, the Isle of Man late coming to the table is not a bad thing if they can learn from the mistakes that others are making. So why don't they just spend $1 million or $2 million to do the drilling, the exploration, and put this geothermal to bed, whether it's going to work or whether it's not? Because no one's done any exploration to it at all. All it is words at the moment.
And do you think the Manx public will be forgiving? Let's just say they put out, I don't know, £5 million or maybe more. If they put aside £5 million for a test geothermal borehole, one or two of them, and it came back that it didn't work, and there are government people and advisors are telling the government now that it won't work. So if they spent £5 million or so and it didn't work, would the public be forgiving, or would they just say, look, you don't know what you're doing, you were told?
Maybe about as forgiving as if they spend 50 or 60 million on wind turbines, kill a lot of the bird population, lower the housing prices, and still not effective. And we get higher electricity. So the same thing could be said with that, Andy, couldn't it?
Oh, and Liverpool landing stage as well, for that matter.
I was just coming to that. You just took the wind out of my sail with that one. You spent 90 million there and 70 million on a boat, which is still a fair weather boat. I think in that terms, the way that these guys throw money around, it's worth a punt at 1.5 or 2 million, which I think was what Graham said, the cost of doing some exploratory boring, to put this to bed or not. Because if it does work, then this truly gives us our own independence in energy, truly, whereas the interconnectors and all this doesn't. I mean, if we've got an electricity problem in the future, then England are buying most of theirs from France. And all these interconnectors. So if we get a volatility or a war of any kind, we're still volatile, and we're going to be the first that's going to be switched off. Okay. So why don't we explore true independence on that? Cheers, Andy.
Bye now. Good to hear from you. Thank you, Juan. A note in from Terry Kay, who just says, is the safety equipment on the Manxman, is it just loose, moving away from the pier? What chance of it staying on in any rough weather? Well, this morning's Manxman sailing, if you want more detail, the Manxman sailing was delayed for an hour because of issues with a critical piece of safety equipment, the bowsing in lines for the marine evacuation system, which is basically the raft. They don't have lifeboats on the Manxman. They've got rafts that you whiz down like a big slide and go into them. Basically, the bowsing in lines came adrift from the securing as the vessel lifted from the pier. It kind of just blipped off. The equipment had to be restowed using a shore crane before being able to proceed, which caused the delay to the 8:45 sailing. Steam Packet says the issue is going to be investigated and measures put in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. No word on whether the latest sailings will be happening. By the way, because the wind's dropped, I was just checking, there's a good website called gridwatch.co.uk, which gives you fairly up-to-date information. It's a 10-minute average of what is supplying the UK's electricity at the moment. Demand there is currently 44 gigawatts at the moment. Nuclear power is 11%, gas is 56%, wind currently is 4%, and solar is 8%. So the wind not blowing in the UK, so obviously their wind power has gone down. I just wonder what your feelings are. Whether you went to the two there were two big meetings on the same night, the one about the green energy project for Andreas Airfield, and also the one in the south regarding this projected wind farm, however many turbines it may be, depending on the size, in the south at Eristane. If you've got any thoughts on this, and if you've never called Mannin Line, it would be nice to hear from you. If you think I'm never going to call because nobody wants to listen to me, let me tell you I do.
Thinking about studying a degree level or postgraduate qualification, but want to stay on the island? University College Isle of Man offer a wide range of higher education level courses, including work-based degrees for hands-on experience within industry. And with 91% of students gaining relevant employment on or before graduation, UCM is an ideal choice for students who are looking to set themselves up for a successful future. Visit ucm.ac.im to explore a range of courses.
This Christmas at Tracy Bell, bring yourself and an elf to receive 50% off these treatments. Boutique whitening for you and your elf for only £400. That's two for £400. In our non-surgical department, choose an injectable treatment for you and your elf and pay for only one. Call 613323 or visit tracybell.co.uk for details and booking. Available till the 24th of December. Terms and conditions apply. Your merry is our mission at Tracy Bell this Christmas. Go on, treat your elf.
Unwrap the ultimate Apple bundle this Christmas with Shaw. Get all your favourites this festive season for £39 per month. Our great value offer includes the iPhone SE, iPad and Apple Watch. Get yours today. Visit us in store or online at shaw.com. T's and C's apply.
It's Manx Radio Christmas Classics on board the dining car on Wednesday the 13th of December. Enjoy a 3-course meal and party away to the best Christmas hits, hosted by one of the fabulous Manx Radio presenters. Tickets are just £49 per person. Visit rail.im or book now on 697457. Manx Radio Christmas Classics, in association with your nation's station, Manx Radio.
Get ready for another winning weekend on Manx Radio.
And this weekend, courtesy of Ramsey Commissioners, you can win £200 to spend in Ramsey Town. Whether it's a garden centre, coffee shop or an eclectic store, you're sure to find a unique Christmas gift in Ramsey.
Visit manxradio.com and answer the competition question for your chance to win.
Then make sure you join us on Manx Radio Breakfast on Monday morning to find out if you're the lucky winner.
Make this your winning weekend with your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Eddie's with us now. Hi, Eddie.
Hi, June. Nice, June. Hi, Andy. Nice to have you back.
All right, thanks.
First of all, well done, June. That was an excellent. I summed up just about a million things. What I wanted to. First of all, I did the meeting. First thing I didn't talk about.
Oh, Eddie, I'm sorry, your phone line is drifting and drifting and drifting. We'll try and call you back, Eddie, but at the moment we're only getting about 10% of what you were saying. So if you, we'll try and call you back, Eddie, and just get a better line for that, if you could. A message in. Oh, I just want to drop a message in from Juan Watterson, who was on yesterday. And Juan, you may know, I tell you most times when MHKs are going to have surgeries, Juan Watterson doesn't hold traditional surgeries. But if any constituent in Russia wants him to visit, he will happily do so if you want to call him. So if you want to get in touch with Juan Watterson, he doesn't hold traditional surgeries, as most of the MHKs do, but he will visit you, happily visit you. He'll probably walk there, knowing Juan. 685507 is Juan Watterson's telephone number. 685507 if you're a constituent and have something you want to talk to your MHK about. That's 685507. Kelly's on now. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Andy.
How's
I'm
things?
here in Australia.
Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Darwin, Australia. Your program starts at 9:30 p.m. here, and I'm an avid listener to the Mannin Line. I'm a Manx woman, and I don't know. I'm just a bit upset with Juan from Croydon. He never has anything good to say about the Isle of Man. He's always whinging about things. And I just got one Manx thing to say to Juan. There's a boat in the morning.
All right, okay. Thanks, Kelly. All right. Thanks very much indeed for that. I think we've got... Do we have Eddie back? We got Eddie back? Eddie, oh, you're there now, are you, Eddie?
I'm here now, and do we have a boat in the morning? That's a point.
Oh, that's it. You can't even insult anybody now because it might not go.
I know. Right, where was I up to? I did attend the meeting on Wednesday.
Right.
And the first thing I noticed is the presentation that they gave was nothing new at all, more or less exactly the same as we've been put before us, but it lasted for about 1 hour, 40 minutes. And then we were given 15 minutes to ask any questions. A little bit one-sided. And as to yesterday, you had two MHKs on from the south. I did try to get through for 33 minutes and give up in the end. I believe you were dead busy. I'm not surprised. But one of the things which the two expressed, they said, when you asked them about the meeting, they said it was mixed opinions. My backside, right? That was all taped, I believe. That was one of my questions, but I believe it's been taped, recorded.
Yes, apparently there's a video of it.
Right, well, I think if anybody wants to watch that video, they'll find that there was only one person in the audience who actually stood up and said they were for it. And when they did, there was a certain member of the audience exposed that person as the daughter of somebody who's in the government anyway. Right? A lot of embarrassment, and she sat down immediately. The other one who was embarrassed at that meeting was the Chief Minister himself, when somebody pointed out that in 2013, in Hansard, he is heard to say he was against any onshore wind farms. Right, and that is down in Hansard. I've never seen anybody look so embarrassed in all my life. It was just farcical. I have noticed an awful lot lately, Andy, that the show seems to be given over to the so-called experts. And maybe a suggestion, seeing as you call this the People's Radio, why don't you dedicate one of your shows to the people who this is all, we're all concerned about this. So why not give a show over to us where you can hear what we have to say? Because there is numerous things. Everybody in this area now, prior to all this happening, they didn't really know a lot about wind farms, but everybody has studied and studied and studied. And I think I said to you the last time I was on, up to now I've got 27 reasons why not to have one. And it is mounting up day after day. And also my suspicions are that the government are actually running the radio show, because they seem to be taking over the propaganda side of it, especially. I just don't know how some of these so-called experts, you had one on before I was away for a week, but you had one on called Callister. That guy used to be in Wave Power. He's no longer in Wave Power. He's now working for the MUA. So his opinion is going to be biased. And I wonder how the hell he's not even still in the water. Was he not good enough to be in the water industry? I don't know. But Rishi Sunak is actually, as Ewan stated earlier on, all the countries are realising electricity is so much dearer with this thing, with the turbines. He is now giving millions and millions to the exploration of water power throughout Britain and wave power. And also, like Ewan was saying there, I believe Siemens are now owing billions because of the failures of so-and-so reliable turbines. Everything about it is totally wrong, and it smells. So give the people a voice. Give one of your shows over to everybody who has started to study and realise. When you had the kids on from Ramsey the other week, you asked them about wind turbines, but what would have been nice when you did ask them would have been a rephrase of the question. Say an example being, if 2 football fields of the Amazon is being cut down every single day just to get the timber for the turbine blades, would they have answered the question the same? And I don't think them young people would. And it is their future. So let's give them the truth about everything. Let's give a programme over to the people who do understand it, because they've studied it now. And we'll pass the information on to the general public.
I think we do give everybody the opportunity. I mean, you've just had several minutes with your opinion. I didn't hear any government interference in that. And I mean, I'm happy to. The trouble is, if you say that we're run by the government, that's thrown at Manx Radio all the time. Luckily, everybody in government thinks we hate the government. So we're kind of loathed from both sides where that's concerned. Government thinks that we do nothing but criticise them. But I mean, every
show over.
Eddie, we're doing that.
Yeah, I meant a full show, a 1-hour show to the people of the area concerned.
To go to well, put it this way: if any of the people around there want us to actually do a programme from there, by all means, get in touch. If we can get enough people together, that's fine. What I'd like to think that we do on Mannin Line, Eddie, is get as much information as possible and put that out. I'd rather we had people who knew everything. I don't think anybody can have too much education and information. But, one person's information is another person's propaganda. We live in that sort of world nowadays.
Yep.
If somebody hears something they don't like, there's the phrase, people shoot the messenger and don't listen to the message.
Yeah, but Andy, when June was on before, he actually pointed out at that meeting that the guy who up the front, who had an added interest because he was a company dealing with it, actually tried to shoot down a geologist who has letters after his name and was speaking what he said was the actual truth, not a pack of misinformation, which is what the presentation did, in my opinion. And it was in everybody's opinion that guy was not given a genuine point of view. He was overruled by the panel.
Well, the government have to make a decision, don't they? Because they're the government that we've elected.
Yeah, but they do that regularly and make a mess of it.
Well,
don't you think?
Well, I'm sure they do some things that are right, and but
we'll have to look back in history for that one, I'm afraid.
All right, it's good to hear from you, Eddie. Thanks for calling today.
And you,
appreciate it. Wilf for Chief Minister, says Pam. Pammy says he's always straight to the point, and he talks common sense as well. I want to go to let me see. We've got More messages I have to get to. I'm sorry about that. We always knew that next day delivery was next week. However, all deliveries of goods seem to have slowed down since COVID. Or is it since the UK left the EU? As farmers, we used to order animal feed for next week. Then it became 2 weeks. Now it's 3 weeks in advance, accentuated by steam packet delays. It really is a nightmare to get continuity of supply for livestock feed. However, the question needs to be asked of the politicians, is the situation due to us being classified as a third country? Is it that?
When the Mannin Line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631.
So the EU being the first country, the UK the second country, and we are the third country. Is that the truth? Text to 828. Sad, they say, but that is a fact. So, out of hours, remember, you email manninline@manxradio.com, call 682-631, the answer phone. No MHK surgeries this weekend. By the way, I've got to say hi. I've been checking through the people who are listening to the podcast and our digital listening. Hi to our listeners in Middlesbrough and Stockton, Ipswich, the Ruhr region of Germany, Boston, Massachusetts, Bruges in Belgium, Germiston, is it Germiston or Germiston in South Africa? Far and wide, thanks for being with us today.
W-I